Welcome back to the Run Home with Joel and Fletch. And Brian,
Yes.
welcome back to an old mate. Speaking about mate, $20 off for 5 months with Mate Internet. Now, this bloke here has been a conduit to both you and I. We both played with this man, you at the Roosters, myself at the West Tigers, and one of the sharpest shooters you'll ever see with the boot. He made me very, very insecure when he turned up. Let me tell you that much when he arrived from the Roosters. His name's Luke Milton, and he's doing wonderful things over there in the United States. And I'm pleased to say the great Luke Milton joins the Run Home with Joel and Fletch. G'day, Lucas.
G'day, boys. How are you? So good to be on here. And firstly, congratulations, boys. Tell you what, taking Australian radio by storm, you two. So congrats, boys.
Very good. Where are you calling from? Oh, sorry, we're calling you. I shouldn't say that you're calling us. Where are you calling from, Luke?
Usually when I call you, you don't answer, Jolie. So, mate, I'm in Dallas at the moment, mate. Dallas, Texas. So,
Wow.
yeah, keeping things running over here. It's, mate, all good.
Brian thinks he's a mad Longhorns fan, don't you, Brian?
Yeah, I'm Texas.
Oh.
I'm Texas TSU. I am
TSU.
TSU.
TCU? That's right
TCU.
next to
Sorry,
you.
Froghorns. Froghorns. Hey, Mildo. Let's just for our listeners. So, you started at the Chooks, didn't you?
Yeah, mate. Yep. So started over at the Chooks when I was 15, actually. Brian Canavan and Arthur Beetson brought me over. So that was really great. And they sent me over to Scots College, which was just instrumental in sort of everything that sort of went on in life. So then I, got to get up there and play with you, mate, up in the big boys league. So I lasted about 3.5 seconds, but it was great playing with you for that long. And then went over from there, mate. Just really enjoyed my time at the Roosters, hence the shirt on. Still a lifetime fan, mate.
And then Tigers. But I remember didn't you go to the Waratahs too?
Yeah, so I went and had a year with Jolie over at the Tigers. Sheensy liked me so much, I only lasted a year, and then went over to the Waratahs after that. So, mate, then sort of took on a bit of a career in rugby, ended up playing a couple of Barbars games, and then with the Waratahs, and then ended up in the Sevens program with the Wallaby Sevens. That was just, mate, that was just a ball. That was so much fun. It was like a party everywhere you went. So got to play with a bunch of really good guys, got to have, some great experiences, and obviously the travel that came along with that. That's sort of what really made me want to get out and about and explore the world a little bit.
Valentine's Day here in Australia, tomorrow for you, Luke. I reckon this bloke would have got plenty of roses sent his way.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, Mildo, okay, so we've gone through your football career.
What would you say to that, Brian? What do we think about our own football careers? Rat's us.
Yes.
Let's get into the meat.
It's a small part of your life.
Yes.
This is what I try and tell people. Like,
we're not defined by it, are we, Brian?
No, we're not. We're not. So then, Mildo, how did you end up? Were you on Oprah? Or no, that was the other dude. You were with the Kardashians, weren't you? Tell me what happened. Tell me what happened. Thanks for the research,
bro. I think that you're really putting
Tell me what happens when you leave playing rugby. You're finished. How did you end up in the States? And how did you end up with Six Toes Kim Kardashian?
I didn't say that, by the way. But, mate, basically, look, I was playing, was super lucky. I ended up playing a tournament sort of with the Sevens, and we were over at Twickenham, actually. And I got invited to go over and play a game in the Grand Cayman Islands, stop through New York, and I met up with Kerry. So to rewind that story, I met Kerry, who's my now wife, in Wake Up, Sydney, a backpackers hostel owned by mine. Yeah,
yes.
great place. And met her there while she was sort of doing a semester abroad. I was down there bartending behind the bar there, and we met her second day in Sydney. We dated for 6 months. Anyway, long story short, she went to Georgetown University. I didn't see her for a year. Played this game, ended up in New York. She was there looking for an apartment. I met up with her, thought, you know what? I was 25, 26 at the time. I retired and I just stayed in New York, basically, and ended up playing for New York Athletic Club, had a great time, fell in love, ended up, having a good year in New York. And then we moved back to Sydney for a couple of years, and then ended up in Los Angeles starting training, mate. And that's when it all sort of started to go okay.
Can I ask you this, Lukey? Like when you landed over there in the States following your love, which is what we do, this is what we do. Did you actually have any ambitions of doing what you ultimately did through training, mate? Or did you kind of just fall into it?
No, I just sort of fell into it, mate. So Jolie, obviously, like the three of us, we've had that privilege of living a healthy lifestyle, right? The thing that I really missed leaving footy was the boys. I'm looking at you, boys. You're looking good, boys. You're looking good.
We're back.
Like Benjamin Button.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, 6 to go. Play on.
No, but mate, we had that privilege of being in shape.
Yep.
And when I left footy, it weirdly wasn't the sport that I missed. It was all the boys, right? It was that locker room stuff. It was Fletch telling his stories, which I hope we get into today. It was like hanging out with you after games and after practice. It was all that camaraderie that I really missed. I sort of took for granted the fact that we got to stay in shape, we got to train, we got to hang out with our mates, and we got to have that healthy lifestyle, just that sort of all-inclusive physical health, social health, and mental health type stuff all in one. So then I just basically started it and just did my best for a little while. Lucky enough, in Sydney, I got to train some pretty high-profile sort of bankers, and then I worked with Saatchi. And one day, it was called Milton Health Management. That's how creative I am. And one day, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, she was in advertising, and she was like, "What are you doing? What makes you different?" And I'm like, "Look, I like training with them. I like doing the session with them. I like hanging out with people as I'm training." And she goes, "So you're kind of like their mate?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "So you're a training mate?" And I'm like, "Well, that's a terrible name. I don't think that'll go anywhere." And anyway, 10 years later, here we are. So that's basically where it went. And then we moved to LA. I started the first studio in West Hollywood. And then from there, was fortunate enough to become a quote unquote celebrity trainer and got named US Celebrity Trainer of the Year. And then Training Mate really blew up. We've expanded out now. And I'm fortunate enough to, deal with a lot of high profile people that we call mates and get to work with every day.
Mildo, I know the Kardashians are can't get much higher than that profile-wise. Who else you knocking around?
Yeah, knocking around with.
Knocking around with. Sorry, with.
Yeah. Mate, there's a bunch. So Alan Leach has become one of my best friends. You'd know him as Tom Branson in Downton Abbey, and he's on Bohemian Rhapsody and all that sort of stuff. And Jesse Metcalf, a couple of the boys, Jensen Button, who's a Formula One trainer.
Oh, yes.
And then the guys that come into work, like Selena Gomez, who work with her, Ash Tisdale, Vanessa Hudgens, Hilary Duff, Rachel McAdams, Tyra Banks.
Oh, wow.
There's a bunch.
Stop.
So, really cool. Good people, too. Really good people.
Okay, probably the most pressing question. Do you think the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift
come on, Brian.
Relationship, do you think it'll last? And is it as big over in the States as it is here?
I reckon it would be bigger, mate. It's all you hear about over here. Wow. I think you can even gamble on things over here of whether he does the Taylor Swift heart. Mate, look, I don't know either of them, so I assume that it's all legit, and I wish the best for them all, mate. I'm a bit of a softie with that sort of stuff, and I hope they find love and end up with a long happy relationship, mate.
Hey, Milto, I was talking to Fletch about this. Yesterday we're sharing in the program around the ratings. So the population of America is probably 350 million or something like that. And the average audience for the Super Bowl was about 120, 130, that sort of. So 1 in 3 people at any given time of the day were watching the Super Bowl. That's like here in Australia, 8 million people watching Origin at any given time. Just doesn't happen.
No.
In the AFL and the Rugby League, the Matildas went close-ish around the 7 million mark, but it's just NFL postcodes away the rest, isn't it? It's so big.
It really is. And Joel, you keep hearing all this stuff about how college football, which is enormous, by the way, and fantastic, but you keep hearing all these things about ratings, right? And so, anyway, lucky enough, one of my mates is a guy called Les Moonves who ran CBS for years. And he pulled me aside one day and just ran me through the numbers, and it absolutely dwarfs everything else that you see. Yeah, the NFL just runs everything, mate. It really is just the biggest thing. It's a phenomenon. Obviously, the advertising spend on it is out of control. All of the things that go along with having an audience that big, mate, it is really the biggest thing that you'll ever see over here. And it's just enormous. I went to the Mavs game last night, the basketball, and that was awesome. It was great. But it's just nothing on the NFL. No. It just has such a huge viewership.
Is it because, Mildo, it's a bit of oversaturation? Like they play 80-odd games in the NBA and the baseball's 100 and 500, whatever game.
I think so, mate. It's like, look, in the NFL, you got to win. It's kind of like watching the NRL or watching rugby or the AFL maybe. You got to win, right? And every game matters. And you watch some of these other sports that play 160-odd games, mate, they walk off. They couldn't give a rat's whether they won through. It's on to the next game, on to the next day, on to the next bus, plane, whatever it may be. mate, they might be 3 states over in 12 hours preparing for another game. It just doesn't, I'm sure it is, but it doesn't seem to be as big of a deal to them. Whereas the football, that's a bit more like what we're used to, as far as you've got to win every game, because you drop a couple and you're no good.
Chatting with Luke Milton, a really good Australian story. Goes over to the States, training mate, the founder of that. Milto, obviously you're probably aware of the Rugby League, National Rugby League heading to Vegas. Yeah. What's your best guess? Do you like the move? Do you think there's a chance of success, or is it just too hard basket? What do you honestly think?
Man, I think you've got to keep the boys out of the casinos the night before. I think as long as you can do that. Look, I'm huge on expanding the game wherever you can. I think it's going to be a very tough ask trying to infiltrate any viewership or even any sort of like market share over here. But I think that the game for back home, I think it's a great spectacle. I think that they're going to see a whole different level of facilities. I think you're going to see a whole lot, a different sort of international sort of experience. But look, it's going to be tough on the boys to recover and go back into round 2. I actually only found out the other day it's a legit round. It's fair income, right? It's an official round. So that surprised me. I think that they should have done an exhibition game. I think the boys are going to do it tough to recover, and you might have a pretty poor round 2 for the teams competing.
What about this, Mildo? What are the Yanks like? Because we hear all these stories saying that, they're quite gullible. There's that famous story saying we close the bridge down at 5 o'clock every day to let all the kangaroos, because the Yanks are really focused on, or they're quite insular, just thinking about their country and their sport. When they ask you questions, are they asking you questions about Australia and about our sports, or is it just they're just concentrating on their own sports?
Man, I will say Americans are obsessed with Australia. They love Australia. They love the Australian lifestyle. They love the Australian culture. Australia is a really popular brand over here. I think Paul Hogan started that. I think Chrissy Hemsworth has done his piece in making sure that the love affair continues. Look, I think that when we talk about that, because I was of the same opinion, right? But living over here for 12 years now, what I've known is, mate, it's 50 different countries. There's 50 states, but mate, they are so different, the states here. You could be in California one day, you could be in Louisiana or New York or whatever else the next day. And mate, there's nothing that's similar. There's no similarities between them. So for a lot of Americans who have not traveled, mate, you can drive the car across the state line and you're basically in another country, to be honest. So the experiences of travel sort of become a lot more domestic than international. And, and then you got the coasts, a lot of people from the coast sort of travel because you are pretty close to other things. But look, I think Americans love Australia. I think they love Australian sports. I think they think we're all crazy, to be honest, mate, like without the helmets and pads and all the rest of it. So it's, I get that a lot, but I would have loved to have tried playing American football just to see how it was, with that helmet and stuff, because I've got a different opinion. I think it'd be harder doing that. They're like little torpedoes jumping into each other, It's
actually, Milton, just on that. So Luke Milton, he was one of the great strikers of the ball. He just long levers and just whacked the ball. Have you ever tried to, I'm sure you have, kick the NFL ball? And if so, like someone like a Hazem El Masri or any of the great strikers in the past, Nathan Cleary, do you believe that any of those could make it, or is it just a complete different kettle of fish?
Mate, Joel Kane, Darryl Halligan, I guarantee it. Joel, yeah, I guarantee it. I actually think that if they ever got exposed to it, we might not have any kickers left in rugby. You know what I mean?
Really?
In rugby league. No, mate, dead set. I think you see a lot of the AFL boys coming over to punt. Yep. And I'm telling you, mate, it is a skill in itself. I remember you and I used to sit there and practice with Graham Arnold all the time, mate. And I just believe when you get that sort of strike right, I think if any of the NFL teams actually started looking at the league boys as a real commodity for goal kicking, I think they would absolutely nail it. I know the Cowboys guy's a soccer player now, and he's had a cracker of a season. He's nailed it.
Is the punter the same? Okay, question. Is there a team in the NFL that the goal kicker, they call it a field goal, and the punter, the same bloke?
Are you trying to be a dual threat?
I'm just trying to work, because I'm just thinking if, for example, Latrell Mitchell.
Yeah, great example.
Latrell Mitchell.
Matt Burton.
If he went to a NFL team and said, look, I can do both. I can save on wages.
Yep.
Just give me the two. Or is it a totally different skill?
Have you seen their salary cap, mate? I don't think they're trying to save any pennies anyway.
It's a good question, Brian.
But no, it is a different skill. But they also, mate, they have a roster. They got 700 people per team.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They got backup kickers and kicker backups and the rest of it. It's unbelievable. They got 2 or 3 punters, 2 or 3 place kickers in case someone gets injured. It's just such a big business, mate. It really is insane. I think it was. Someone was telling me the other day that even at college level, like LSU's $1 billion program, like it's worth $1 billion. You got the Cowboys. I think they're up to about $8 billion now. Wow. You know what I mean? I mean, you'd have to have your boys' money to be buying those.
No, not mine. What about how many kids you got, Mildo?
Just one, mate. Just one.
Okay,
little daughter.
Little girl. What we always hear this
girl,
stuff about you have to put, a college fund away and all that sort of stuff. How much is college?
So my wife went to Georgetown. She's obviously a lot smarter than I am. I think a school like that would be about 65, 70 grand a year, I think now. And you go for 4 years. So,
that's US. That's US, gosh.
So you're up for a couple $100,000 in college. And then, in private schools, pretty similar these days, to be honest. So.
Chatting to Luke Milton, founder of Training Mate. Hey, Lukey, just to round off this kicking situation, because I know that you were very, very good at it and you would have done it. If you had to, and this is just give some context for the Australian Rugby League audience, even the AFL audience. Matt Burton, for example, I timed him in an Origin, I think it was, and his hang time was as good as you'll get in the NFL. I know they're very different balls, but if you had to latch on to as a punt an NFL ball versus the Steeden Rugby League ball or the AFL ball, up there, Kazali Sharon, or a goal kick, what's easier? Is it what we have or is it what they have?
The American footballs are small, mate. They're really small.
Yeah.
I prefer kick a rugby league, but I prefer kick a Steeden. But, mate, you practice on one of those little ones, you can knock it out of the park. Yeah.
Right. And it's always in front. They're kicking always in front.
Play. It's a set play. You got the snap, you got the holder, you got everything. Oh, mate, Jolie, I don't think you'd miss one. I'll go on record saying I don't miss one.
No, please.
You'd be kicking about 90%.
Yes.
Is there any rugby league players ever retired? Haslam was the best, was he?
That's a good question.
Is Haslam...
Well, look, you've studied it as much as I have. Who do you believe is the best ever NRL goal kicker? And considering the circumstances, tees have changed, balls have changed.
Yeah.
All things being even, who have you observed to be the best ever kicker you've seen?
Mate, I think it's such a broad question right under pressure and stuff. I just remember Daryl Halligan in those late semi-finals where he was just knocking it from the sideline. Halligan or El Masri, I reckon.
Yeah, I'm El Masri, Brian.
What was he kicking at? 80s?
Oh, but I don't ever recall El Masri missing when he had to get it. That's Mahomes' mentality. They're different. There's different sports people under pressure.
That's right. What do they do with pressure?
Some eat it, some get eaten by it, Brian.
We need T-shirts, mate. Yeah. I want to get one. Yeah. We'll send it over to Mildo.
Okay.
Just to walk down West Hollywood.
Hey, Mildo, is that home now? Are you there? If I said Luke Milton, I bump into you in 15 years' time and at the front of your house, is that in the United States or is it back in Australia?
Hopefully it's a bit of both, mate. Look, we're pretty sort of switched on with the company right now and expanding the company. And obviously Riley's, the biggest part of my life. So making sure I get her through to college age. I'd love to split the time though, mate. I do miss home. I'd love to be back there at least 3 or 4 months of the year. I'm actually going to come back in a couple of weeks. It's just, mate, it's magic. Jolie, where we are down there at Cronulla, mate, just go for a walk along the Esplanade early morning. There's nothing better. There's nowhere in the world. I've been super fortunate to travel a lot and live in a bunch of places. There's nothing better than the Australian lifestyle and the Australian beaches. So I think, it would be most of the time in the States for sure. But I would like to spend a lot more time in Australia.
So if the Aussies are going abroad, which many are for Vegas, is there a way they can get somehow involved in sports, mate?
Training mate.
100%.
Training mate.
Training
mate.
Training mate.
They can come in with anyone that wants to come in. Just mate, reach out to any of the studios. It's trainingmate.com. Reach out to any of them. Send us a little message or follow us on Instagram at trainingmate. Shoot us a little DM and we'll make sure that we throw you a class or two so you can get in there and sweat out some of the demons.
Yes.
Isn't it good to go down memory lane?
It's great.
What a great story. Hey, Luke, very proud, mate. What a story you've been. And you're always a talent. You're always pushing the envelope, wanted to beat your very, very best. And you know what? It's all come to fruition. So dreams are free, as they say, young men.
Hey, I appreciate it, boys, and congrats, guys. It's so great to catch up. And I know, I got asked this the other week about dealing with celebrities and if they intimidate and stuff like that. And it's because of guys like you that I'm not intimidated by them, because walking into those dressing rooms, and you guys are, whether you want to know it or not, absolute legends. As an 18-year-old kid walking in with the likes of you guys around, mate, you definitely set me up, and I've got nothing but gratitude and appreciation for those lessons and some of those stories. We'll get into those another time.
Good on you, Mildo.
Absolutely.
Tell my wife that.
Yeah.
Whatever you said then, I'm going to give my wife that.
Yeah.
Saying,
Just tell her every day how lucky she is, Bryzy. Every day.
Hey, just before you go, Dalian rankings. I know you've trained so many celebrities. I didn't ask you this. I should have. Give us your 3, 2, 1 of just the rock solid people who they don't have to be the biggest name, but you just love their company.
Mate, Alan Leach has got to be number one. He's my best mate in the world. He's just a great. He's like a brother. Mate, Lucy Hale, absolute rock star.
Right.
She's an absolute rock star. Chloe's amazing. She's great, but of course you're gonna know that. Ash Tisdale, she's a real champion. And Riley's obsessed with High School Musical right now, so I'll throw her in there.
Okay, so just repeating those. Ash Tisdale gets the 1 point for the Dally M's.
Yeah, Leachy.
Leachy gets the 3 Dally M's.
Yeah.
And he's got the medal.
And the 2 went to who? Who was
Lucy Hale.
Lucy Hale. Hail Mary.
What's Lucy? What's Lucy in? What's Lucy's game?
Mate, she was in one of the Vampire.
Oh,
she's,
yes.
She's blown up. She's massive.
What about
she's
Selena?
crushing over here. And such a sweetheart.
Selena Gomez strikes me as a nice person too.
Mate, she's great. She really is. Selena's mate, she's just a legend. She's a really, really nice person. She's great. She's a real sweetheart.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, Mildo, we're just writing these down.
I'm just doing what the rest of the audience are doing. We're
Mildo,
Googling Lucy Hale.
I know
yes,
it's
please.
10 o'clock. I know it's 10 o'clock over there, so thank you very much for your time. How many hours of sleep do you get a night? Because I'm going through this with a
How many goodbyes we doing?
No, I just want to know. Just sleep, because sleep's very important.
I heard about your biohacking, mate.
Yeah,
mate,
I'm right into that shit.
I'm trying to get 6.5. I'm pretty obsessed with my cold plunges at the moment. So
yes.
I've just added a PM cold plunge to my routine. So I usually I'll do my cold plunge first thing in the morning, have my coffee, take the dogs for a walk and get on with my routine. But now I've started adding one about 7 p.m.
Ooh.
And I'll let you know in a couple of weeks once I get a bit of validity behind it.
Downtown Thad Central. He'll follow you in here, Bears Head. Lukey Milton, for the 4th and final time, we say goodbye. Well, thanks very much, mate. Great to catch up.
See you, boys.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Lukey.
What a great story, Brian.
Yeah,
Lukey Milton.
It's awesome.
For Training Mate.